She wasn't supposed to be the bride. The words hung, tangling in the cigarette smoke that coiled lazily beneath the club lights. As Tony Luciano sat with a glass of bourbon, the realization hit him harder than any bullet he'd ever taken. Tony's world was one of shadows and secrets. A man used to manipulation and power plays, yet here he was, outmaneuvered by a twist he hadn't foreseen. The velvet hum of the nightclub, the low chatter, and the soft clinking of glasses faded around him, replaced by the drumming awareness of betrayal. A man accustomed to being underestimated, Tony was not easily thrown off balance. With his often rumpled suits and mumbled words, he played the part of the inconspicuous underboss meticulously. Few knew of the sharp mind that lurked beneath those shaggy eyebrows and gruff exterior. His knack for appearing unimposing was his greatest asset, one that had helped him survive in the crime-infested veins of New Santino City. But today was different. Today, everything he believed in was on shaky ground. They were supposed to celebrate an alliance, a moment when old hostilities would be clothed in the thin guise of matrimony, where rings would bind the Capulos and Lucianos in blood and business. His sister Serafina had been promised to Simone Capillo, sealing a pact stronger than steel chains. Yet betrayal loomed. It was an undercurrent, as cold and sharp as the silver knife at his belt. Tony had weathered many storms, emerged from many scrapes that would have sent others to an early grave, but this was personal. He ground his teeth, the weight of his sister's betrayal like lead in his gut. At first, there had been talk, a whispered phrase passed in dark cobblestone alleys. The Capillo family were known for their ruthlessness, their alliances forged through blood rather than bonds. A union sure in peace, but now threatened by an unexpected betrayal, revealed only moments before the white blossoms adorned pews and guests gathered in silk and whispers. His thoughts were interrupted as Nico, his consigliere, slid into the booth across from him, eyes flickering nervously. "Tony, we have a problem." "Understatement," Tony replied, his voice like gravel. Nico leaned forward, the shadow over his features making him look like a man teetering on the edge. "Simone didn't marry Serafina." Tony fixed him with a glare that could cleave stone. "I'm aware." "It's messier than that," Nico said, rubbing a hand through his hair. "There's another player." Information drifted in smoke-filled rooms, plans whispered among clinking glasses, and hidden intentions. Tony had heard it all, the gossip, the threats, the secret alliances, but the thought that one of his own blood could be involved was inconceivable. "Do you believe in ghosts, Tony?" Nico asked, a faint quaver in his voice. "Only the ones we make ourselves," Tony muttered, eyes narrowing, his finger tapping against the heavy silver ring on his Honda family heirloom, an emblem of his status. The crisis was more than political. It was a specter from their family's past, threatening to unravel everything. The clubs and the warehouses, the imported black cars that rumbled through the streets as towering symbol of ambition, their family's empire. It was like watching a vase shatter in slow motion. Tony rose from his seat, shoulders broad against the dim light, and strode towards the exit. Outside, the rain drummed on the glossy hoods of parked cars, a symphony of chaos that matched his internal turmoil. He had to manage this matter carefully. As he walked with purpose past alleys that breathed with shadows and whispers, a deep sense of dread gnawed at his insides. Any misstep now could undo layers of carefully laid plans. He needed to ensure that his family remained strong, and for that, he needed the truth. The truth, he discovered, was buried in the past, tangled with the hidden identity of a sister he cared for, who now seemed like a stranger. His heart sank as he realized the farewell had not been goodbye, Serafina, but instead had become something he dreaded. Goodbye, innocuous days. Back at the Luciano estate, an imposing mansion long converted into a fortress of luxury, shields of tradition wrapped in modern finery, Tony faced the portrait-lined walls that bore silent witness on songs to ages of unyielding struggles and victories. He had to unravel the mystery of his sister's disappearance and rise above the chaos before him, or face the dismantling of their empire. Deeper into the night, he found himself in the family library, where dusty tomes harbored memories and secrets in equal measure. Here, amidst whispers of history and leather-bound ancestral volumes, the impending danger cast long shadows over his reflections. As rain purled against the window, he felt a certain alignment in the world. A motif, like a black car gleaming in darkness, unstoppable once set in motion, that now echoed his determination. Tony readied himself for the challenges ahead. Each decision now weighted with consequence. The photograph fell from the book and tumbled to the floor. The image was unmistakable. Both women standing together, eyes aflame with life. A rare photograph of Serafina and her twin, Isabella, thought lost to the family legacy. A ghost from a life presumed concluded. "Prepare the car," Tony commanded, a resolution stealing his voice. The revelation of Isabella's involvement shifted the entire narrative. Into the night they would ride, as Tony initiated the search for answers amid the flickering neon that mirrored the city's pulse, vivid, undulating, alive. And in the depths of his mind, a single thought prevailed. Why is Isabella here? And where is us? Where does this leave Serafina? He turned, the world a snapshot of unraveled destinies as shadows converged. The night's uncertainty swirled, a storm beneath a deceptively calm veneer, when the unmistakable shadow of a familiar car emerged beneath the streetlight. The clock on the mantel ticked too loudly in the quiet of the Luciano study, underscoring the tension with each relentless second. The church bells never should have tolled. Tony's voice cut through the stillness, delivering a verdict as he stared at Isabella's picture on the mahogany desk. The room was thick with expectations of meta sanctum, of decisions past and yet to come, where the draft carried the Coolidge chill through the cracked window. Tony's dark eyes scanned the dimly lit room, each shadow concealing teases of long-forgotten secrets. He slipped his signet ring, the heavy accumulation of generations over his knuckle, feeling its reassuring weight. Although a man of action, Tony was often dismissed as just another link in the Luciano chain, his talents cloaked by his unobtrusive demeanor. Contemporary attire concealed a body forged by years of navigating the dangerous flux of gangland loyalties. Sitting back, he glanced at the flickering candle, its light dancing over the silver frames of family gone by. The candle wax dripped like time, inexorable and indifferent, onto the polished surface, pooling ominously near the photographs of his ancestors who never flinched before a storm. The door creaked open, and into the subdued sanctity stepped Maria, the family maid. Her gaze, seasoned and knowing, glanced once at the desk. "Tony," she began, her voice a melody of support and solicitation, "there is word on the street of Isabella's whereabouts." Tony set his jaw, acquainted with the look Maria wore, one of a daughter ready to wield the courage of her convictions. "Where?" His voice barely rose above a whisper, yet his command was evident. "Down by the docks near Ronaldo's old place," Maria replied. Her presence, like a balm of solace, always had a way of steadying him. A chill pricked his skin, the weight of responsibility sitting heavy on his shoulders like a midnight fog. Ronaldo's his father's outpost, a memory thick with the scent of tobacco and betrayal. Tony rose, straightening his coat before the portrait of the founding Luciano, nodding once in silent allegiance to their shared legacy. Determination etched into every feature, he strode toward the impending storm, memories trailing like shadows cast by the murky warehouse lights. Nico was waiting at the garage, the black sedan gleaming under the industrial lights, a sleek homage to their family's understated power. Tony slipped into the leather seat, the familiar scent of gunmetal and cologne encompassing him. "We go now," Tony instructed, the engine's rumble harmonizing with his resolve. Rain splattered against the windshield as they coasted through the city toward the docks, its relentless rhythm a drumming prelude to the confrontation ahead. "You think she's there alone?" Nico ventured, navigating through the neon-drenched avenues that blurred past in streams of electric anticipation. "I think," Tony replied, his voice a meditative rumble, "that we're about to find out why the past never stays where it belongs." The docks emerged from the mist, a window into another world where the salt of the sea mingled with the echoes of clandestine loyalties. Tony stepped out, his shoes crunching on the stiff gravel, sound unnervingly akin to bones breaking. Neon lights flickered, but offered little comfort to the silhouettes moving within Ronaldo's. Tony's gaze was keen, picked up every detail. The scuffed entryway, the metal door handle's cold, unfriendly sheen. "Stay behind me," he murmured to Nico, each syllable thick with commanding intent. As they breached the entrance, the air was pregnant with tensiona, withheld breath, reluctant to break the silence. A murmur of hushed voices resonated within, and a chill ran down Tony's spine. There she was, Isabella, her hands moving with the grace of someone who hadn't been lost, but rather biding her time. Her eyes met Tony's with the intensity of recognition, of acknowledgement shared only by those cut from the same cloth. Tony, she addressed him, her voice carrying remnants of a bond unbroken. He stepped forward, the fabled Luciano control cloaking his emotions even as a storm surged beneath. Isabella, he replied, a name heavy with years of separation and unspoken tales. I knew you'd come. She smiled, a theatrical overture hinting at secrets wound tightly within them both. I've missed the rain, she admitted, gesturing to the downpour framed by the shattered windows of memory. Tony's gaze remained unyielding, searching for clarity within the smoky veils of their past. Why now, Bella? Why come back at the moment everything hinges on the balance? Her reply was shrouded in the riddles he knew so well. To right the wrongs, she breathed, the haunted resonance only truth can deliver weaving through her words. The atmosphere was restless, the air charged with possibilities threatening the very fabric of their family's endurance. Tony and Isabella, twin souls sharing the echo of their lineage, locked in precarious intimacy as the stakes soared. But there was something more, a subtle pulse between them, like the cadence of rain suggestive yet vital. He inclined closer, the whisper of past and present bridging, and asked, "And Serafina?" Her eyes hardened, resolve threading through her answer, "Serafina's safe for now." The implications settled like dust, uninvited yet inevitable. Choices unfurled before Tony, charged with consequences only partially glimpsed in the revelations of Isabella's return. Then, without warning, something clicked in the shadows, a familiar metallic snap, slicing through conversation and instinct alike. Tony's hand drew to the knife at his belt, reflexes honed by necessity clashing with the unseen threat. Isabella moved, fueled by a synergy of learned caution and innate courage. Tony's focus sharpened in a heartbeat, a moment suspended in decision as the futures of both entwined. Their destinies, abruptly altered, wove inextricably together in arcs only a Luciano could foresee. A siren wailed in the distance, jagged and mournful, underscoring the rush of adrenaline setting nerves alight. Looks like our clocks just synchronized, Tony murmured, his voice a low caress across the taut air. Beneath the mere exchange of word, understanding flared a resilience entwined with their unity. In the swirl of uncertainty echoing through the warehouse's vastness, they prepared to face the oncoming storm. Through the abyss, Isabella last set active, Maria's familiar silhouette at the door, veiled with mystery and yet brimming with untold insight. They knew our every move. The words echoed ominously, a ghostly reminder of the betrayal lurking in every corner of their lives. Tony paced the length of the abandoned dockside office, eyes shadowed with fatigue. Each stride felt heavier as the burdens of the past threatened to pull him under. Tony, often misjudged as just another pawn in the Luciano legacy, never underestimated the power of perception. Beneath the guise of a slight, unassuming demeanor lay an intellect as sharp as any blade he carried. His fingers drummed against the scarred wood of the desk, matchhead for thought, rhythmic echo of his father's lessons drummed over years of survival. From the window, the sea stretched out, dark and churning like his thoughts. As rain slid down the glass in uncertain rivulets, he contemplated their course. A life built on whispers of strength could be as fragile as the smoke rising from his untouched cigarette. "Tony, what now?" Isabella's voice, once a linen-soft lullaby in his murky past, now pulled him back to the brusque reality. They stood at a precipice, an unexpected surge of familial loyalty mixed with a looming sense of treason. She was not Serafina sweet, obedient Serafina, but related to him as blood equals, a formidable twin who bore all of his fire and none of his pretensions. Isabella's resilience had nurtured an edge that could carve through steel. Her return to their world was not one of submission, but rather confrontation against the same malevolent forces that had shaped their destinies. "What do you mean, knew our every move?" Tony growled, suspicion hardening his jaw, the lines of his face etched with unspoken threats. "They want you weakened, distracted, seeing ghosts where none are. Her eyes shone with the intensity of someone who had seen beyond the veil of deception. Her truth was bladed, lethal. "Do you think I'd fall into this trap?" Tony's voice was level, though beneath his steady composure lay a churning whirlpool of emotion unmapped by those around him. Her gaze was unwavering, a reflection of his own resolve. "No, but they underestimate you, and that is your greatest weapon." Every word spoke volumes about the shared silence of siblings divided and destiny drawn together. As they stood, the buzz of fluorescent bulbs overhead that echoed the tumult in their hearts, a relentless vibe of inevitability. Tony turned to the array of maps and papers strewn across the table, each a testament to past movement and future intent. This was his dominion, the battlefield of alliances and aggression. "We strike tonight." The words were not spoken but issued command, rippling through the air, with the finality of a stone cast upon water. Outside, under the cover of growing darkness, gears of the underworld cranked into motion. Wheels spun, plots collided, and tempers flared like matchsticks against a gale. For Tony, the rising tension within the family reached a fever pitch. Serafina's hidden whereabouts burned a hole inside him. Yet knowing her twin and sensing her deeper intentions, he had to tread the space between caution and aggression cautiously. The docks were a hive of activity, each shadow a menace lurking behind crates and cobblestones. Figures moved with the fluidity of sea creatures navigating dark waters, their whispers carried by the wind and lost among the scent of salt and burnt promises. Isabella stood sentry beside him, her presence a balance between vulnerability and power, one free from the tormented shadows marking their youth. She embodied strength distilled from pain, honed into a citadel of purpose. Together, in that flammable tension before the unraveling, they harnessed the power of shared destiny, rooted deeply in the bedrock of their ancestors' sins. "Bella," Tony began in the hushed, entrancing cadence of realization, "I need you to lead them away." It was a risk, a gambit only she could pull off without unraveling their potential union. The choice was swift, mutual, a silent nod, bridging their unvoiced understanding. As she moved to execute the diversion, Tony unlocked a hidden compartment within the Eisen desk, retrieving a steel-studded case. Inside lay the revolver more eloquent than words, inevitable yet unapologetic. The culmination, the temptation of war in imminent proximity, coiled around his spirits as easily as Isabella's brotherly bond. He held it aloft in the gleaming dockside light. Meanwhile, she ghosted into the shadows, leading the eyes and ambitions of their enemies elsewhere. Her every step a gamble and a promise pushed through thin layers of loyalty, love, and treason. In that decisive moment before fate's reckoning, Tony was left within the abyss of theatrics against pretense, alone with intentions sharper than any blade he carried. His whisper, low and steely against calm conviction, rooted moral resolutions beneath festering threats that bared their teeth in the dark. A vision. Black car waiting beyond the peeling gates held ghosts plucked from illusions and memories, converging into a spotlight only the bravest of hearts dared enter. "Ready the car," Tony muttered into his echo, lost memories of love and war submerged out back. And as he steeled his resolve, an unmistakable slice of anxiety mirrored by the clock's tick reverberated through the room, a reminder against the whims of fate's deadly anticipation. Then, in the sound emanating from the outer darkness, a single mysterious click resonated through the turmoil, eclipsed with the threat of the unexpected. A silence complete, profound, lingered, thick yet alluring. A darkness full of promises yet to be revealed, as Tony whispered across the void beneath thrumming threats. "Only the ones we make ourselves." The night was electric, with a tension only betrayal could birth. "She's nowhere to be found," Nico declared, slamming his fists against the table as rain pattered urgently on the roof above. "That's because she hasn't been spotted," Tony replied calmly, his voice a measured whisper against Nico's turbulence. He could sense the desperation at the edges of his consigliere's composure, an unnerving tension that crept into their calculations. Tony was an enigma to most a figure who flourished not by force or obvious charisma, but through the power of subtlety. His signature olive coat hung loosely over his wiry frame, belying the strength tucked away in lean muscles hardened by years of survival. Every deliberate move was calculated, a dance through shadows cast not by weakness, but by deception. His fingertips brushed against the edge of an old clock perched on his desk, its ticking a constant reminder of the journey from innocent beginnings to the murky present. The room, once a haven filled with echoes of family gatherings and laughter, now brimmed with uncertainty, each corner spilling over with rising apprehensions. "Are you certain Isabella can handle the distraction alone?" Nico probed, his brow furrowed in concern. The fading light of the room cast long shadows across the walls, merging with the ticking clock to create a tapestry of suspense. "Yes," Tony affirmed crisply, a silent strength underscoring his words. He knew Isabella better than anyone, her instinct for surviving amidst chaos resonant with his own. It was a precarious balance they tread, the choice forced upon them, expectations like lead weights pulling at the very fabric of their resolve. The kink in their plans stemmed from Serafina's unexpected absence, leaving a gap yet to be bridged. The plot thickened outside, sirens humming a tune of urgency beneath the biting winds of an unsettled evening. Within the twilight's embrace, plans unfurled, driving Tony forward despite the enveloping gloom. Venturing towards the Doxa domain, once their playground, Tony moved with the sureness born of familiarity. His heart pulsed within a rhythm attuned to the city's beat, each step a decisive strike against the whispering currents of hesitation. On reaching the dockside, he sensed the stakes had amplified, each shadow concealing both past allies and treacherous intent. The nocturnal symphony played on, embracing him in its covert melody of risk and revelation. A flickering light caught his attention, a solitary bulb swaying precariously from a rusting socket, its glow casting oscillating halos upon the trenches and trappings of the old wharf. In the interplay of light and dark, Isabella emerged a specter turned strategist, her robust figure gleaning confidence in the midst of opposition. Her arrival imbued the scene with a twist of both expectation and liberation. "Over there," she gestured enigmatically, her fingers pointing towards a cluster of crates stacked haphazardly like forgotten pieces of a grander puzzle. "It's empty," Tony observed, a whisper of doubt coloring his remark. "Not quite," Isabella countered, her tone a blend of familiarity and mystery. The crates became their vantage point, obscuring them from prying eyes as the moments unfurled. Tension rode high, adrenaline pacing through Tony's veins like a fervent promise of discovery. The convergence of mystery and resolve sent shivers of anticipation across his body. As they lay in wait, the familiar, lurking silhouette of opportunity and deceit presented itself. Figures cloaked in anonymity began to gather, like apparitions convening upon a haunted stage beneath pulsing, celestial rhythms. Isabella's face turned towards Tony, her eyes catching the drifting dust motes hanging like witnesses in the air around them. "Once this starts, there's no turning back." Her voice was steady, laced with the gravity only shared history could provide. "We move forward," Tony declared, finding strength in her presence, their collaboration a fortress against looming threats. As dusk wrapped the world in a tighter cloak, the moment of truth approached with a humming inevitability. The stakes, enshrined in the cadence of their heartbeats, reverberated around them, gathering speed and volume. A lone bell, distant yet familiar, interrupted the building tension, each resounding chime whispering of decisions yet to be made, of plans unraveling or solidifying under fate's mercurial grip. In the space of breath and contemplation, light breached the boundary, both metaphor and reality, igniting in a singular moment. The reveal sharp, undeniable, and enduring pierced through the night like a revelation. Tony stepped forth, embracing the clarity of purpose that had eluded him, Isabella's presence reinforcing their alliance, a symbol of the Luciano legacy resilient against adversities past and present. And within the ensuing crescendo, a singular, decisive sound a click, metallic and articulate sliced through the charged air, ready to punctuate the narrative unfolding within and beyond their grasp. Yet as the labyrinthine dance between future prospects and current choices swirled, it came a question from the shadows, a reminder of risks yet unquantified. When does risk turn to betrayal? The fog of intrigue thickened then, a prelude to the unfolding future. The air crackled with anticipation as the tide of uncertainty began to rise, swirling around Tony like the gathering of a storm. Someone's crossed the line. His voice was like the growl of thunderlow, menacing, promising upheaval. In the dim luminescence of the waterfront, where the mist coiled around silhouettes like wraiths, Tony stood at the precipice of revelation. His figure, lean and shadowy, was a paradigm of quiet authority, belying the tempest coiled within. Old boots crunched on the gritty stone, each step towards the truth a dance on a knife's edge. It was as if the night itself had wrapped its cloak around him, embracing his solitude. The ink-black sky stretched endlessly above, heavens churned by both literal and figurative tempests. Gunmetal and salt mingled with the consequence-laden aura that vibrated around him. The dock sprawled like a skeletal beast about to shrug off secrets it had long harbored. Whispers in the wind spoke of betrayals and suspicions. Word had spread. There were those looking to dismantle the Luciano grip, one deception at a time. Their adversaries believed Tony was overextended, caught in a web of familial loyalty and vendetta. But unassuming though he appeared, his grip on the threads of fate was as delicate as it was unwavering. As he moved deeper into the heart of the labyrinthine shadows, voices drifted to him on the night air, threads of intrigue spun with veiled loathing for the family name. Tony paused, his gaze settling on an array of emptied vessels holding not just goods, but secrets of past dealings. The irony wasn't lost on him. Those secrets acted as both shield and poison, a balance he had mastered through years of cunning and calculated risk. Reaching into his pocket, Tony retrieved a ring, the pale moonlight catching on its surface. It was a symbol, an heirloom, and a promise. His fingers traced the engraved pattern, a lion rampant, its significance fiery against his skin. As he slipped it on, the weight of its meaning settled into the marrow of his bones. Suddenly a voice broke through the shroud of night, the timbre smooth yet coiled with threat. "Tony, you've grown predictable." His betrayer had a face cloaked in shadow, but the voice, tainted with a feigned camaraderie, slipping through the veil. A longtime associate became adversary. The sting of that transformation stabbed sharper than any dagger. Amusement laced Tony's reply, rippling through the tension surrounding them. Predictable enough to know not to trust shadows. With a flick of his wrist, a hidden blade glinted briefly before it whispered back into obscurity, a familiar companion. Crisis threatened, inching closer with every conversational beat. Betrayal drumming against the backdrop of deluge as Tony squared with the monstrous shadows of renegade kin. This was a game intricately woven, a masterpiece of deception that had unfurled so dramatically under the guise of a cordial evening. From the conversation's corners, others projected hostility masked in amiable discourse. But Tony's gaze, piercing as the edge of a blade, caught the workings of greed that sought to obscure their intent. Every sense screamed a high alert. Tony listened between the words, feeling the trap cinch tighter with each passing moment. Around him stood those whose shared intentions sullied by the potential of power. Obstacles began to mount, a faction of rebels aligned with serpentine influences. Each calculated gesture cloaked their malevolence, fueling the precarious escalation within a silent metaphorical blaze. Ideas exchanged, unspoken yet palpably present, grew thick in the charged air. Across the gathering intensity, Tony sensed the fevered undertow of those antics that sought to drown him in the family legacy. A well-aimed question lanced through the mists. "Where does loyalty draw its costs, Tony?" This was more than personal. It was a crucible simmering with the potential for both demise and resurrection. The core question of emboldened identity wrestled for dominance as Tony maintained an ironic veneer amidst internal infernos. "You've no right to question loyalty while forging your betrayal in the same breath," Tony calmly observed, the glint in his eye a testament to cerebral prowess that gave rise to his influence. A pause unfurled as heavy as velvet, each heart a drumbeat drawing cinematic tension. The murmur of night alloys sounded against Tony's quickening pulse, synaptic conversations threatening eruption. Yet within those tenebrous moments, realization dawned, a hidden gambit revealed itself. The ring his mark, His icon transformed in his mind to become more than a mere artifact of kinship, an insight no visible clue could betray, its message known only to the true contender. In the midst of rising voices, a hidden resolve anchored Tony to the soil beneath. Behind the facade of amicable meeting, there wove the ropes that sought to bind him further. But where they aimed to smelt chains, Tony foresaw the forges of liberation fueled by his prowess. The clarity arrived with devastating presence. Clarity coursed through Tony, sharp as a recently forged blade. Twin burdens of choice and consequence settled as the allegory of preceding conflicts refined his resolve. Family binds differently, as it does through time and one's test against the other. Tony pressed quietly. The subtext eloquently dare that he knows betrayal carries perils worth transcending. His words summoned a sharp crack from the crowd, a quick movement in response to perceived slight. And before reactions took root, confrontation ignited amidst the smoky veil. Tony surged forward into the chasm between allies and enemies, the chaos engulfed in primal resolve, aligning with moral mission. The shadow play now realized became an unforgettable testament to survival by strategy older than the bones it fed, while new generations cast it against the tempest. Surging past still hulls in the drizzle-kissed cobbles, visions crystallized of respite, come through struggle's transcendental baptism. Window moments squeezed beneath allies, indiscreet, illumined and played by the seduction of steel, honed by edge. And yet within all, the bridge over uncertainty lay unbroken. What barriers materialized dissolved in a triumphant ballet of vengeance and fate converged. In the final crescendo of the conflict, Tony navigated through the churning tides of deception. The apparition of betrayal, no longer muted, laid bare beneath the unyielding witness of the unforgiving storm. Yet the wolf in shadow drew back to reveal itself in form and legend alone. A single sound lingered, distinct, jarring, a metaphysical axis poised atop fate's binding spindle, a witness to the lingering darkness, not fully quashed amid light. Finally, the curtain call beckoned. The quiet door of fate halted between realms, cast into reflection amid intrigue's molten heart. A vision, a silhouette emerged, her cloak pronged by both darkness promise and luminosity latent. Isabella, untethered and indomitable. But more was at stake within her aspect. The shore flickered beneath celestial witness. A current of secrets, betrayal seethed beneath the surface, pulled Tony's focus like gravitation's timeless clutch. Therein lay the story, ballooning within circumstance, suspended against unyielding moments destined to cascade. In silence, whom will the siren call to the edge beyond? The blade will never forget, were words whispered by the shadows. A single raindrop hung suspended beneath the weathered brim of Tony's fedora, a glistening testament to gravity defied. Someone's poised to strike, Isabella whispered, words barely audible against the storm-tossed background. Tony stood at the intersection of fate and fury, inhaling the air thick with ozone and gunpowder. He was an unyielding force amidst the chaos, an often overlooked fulcrum within the delicate balance of power swirling through New Centino's criminal underworld. From under his bowler, ever shadow-clad, eyes assessed the shifting allegiances rippling around him like eddies in a river poised to flood. His heart beat in syncopation with the pattering of rain against cobblestones. Memories of youthful summers spent running these same streets resurfacing as bittersweet recollections now tinted with regret. He was a man shaped by struggle and loyalty, bearing secrets like Scar's silent testament to survival in an unforgiving city. Across the docks, Nico fumbled with his wristwatch, its hands climbing towards an unseen rendezvous. His usual casual demeanor had given way to tension, the kind that clung like smoke in the hollow alleys between warehouses. "Tony, they've outmaneuvered us," he admitted, each word carrying the weight of failed expectations. The rain turned ferocious, cascading as Tony processed this admission. Louder now, drowning out the ambient audio of water lapping against wooden pilings, as if the sea itself rebelled against past indiscretions. His gaze swept the expanse where darkness forged alliances, none trustworthy, each as transient as the half-moon peeking through sifted clouds. In the distance, a silhouette specter amidst swirling fog emerged. Tony recognized it instantly, the solitary figure of Isabella. She was the second half of his existence, her steps as assured as her voice. Bella, Tony acknowledged, the name a protective spell and incantation of shared blood and history. Her arrival was marked by a flash beneath the dim street lamp, the blade's edge reflecting the nascent light like a portent. The sight of the knife punctuated the moment, as much a symbol of the ties that bound and betrayed them as the ring adorning Tony's finger. "I have a lead," Isabella announced, its quiet certainty igniting an ancient strategic calculus within Tony. Whatever weight lashed to her composure hinted at truth undisclosed, a Pandora's box she alone could choose to either open or secure. Together they turned toward the task, their purpose clear among the chaotic din of barking souls and shadows taking form around them. Voices devoid of the warmth of sincerity, tinged instead with avarice and certainty of power unchecked. Gauntlets thrown and alliances betrayed transformed the serene night into a battleground, stakes lifted by betrayal's cruel hand. As they navigated towards the office, the deceptions twisted like smoke through stale memories logged in steerage. Tony stepped up his pace, stride lengthening with decisions made in split-second determinations. He reached out to clasp Isabella's shoulder, a silent promise of support as the twin destinies converged upon this nocturnal odyssey. Rain cascaded in relentless sheets above as Tony confronted the locked safehouse. The code slider whirred as though in expectation, calibrating intent compressed between code memory and familial instincts. Fueling Tony's drive was that inexorable certainty unto fear's domain, revealing fragments of personal resolve panoplied by shadow and light, refracted in burgeoning menace. Isabella hovered at his side, the chill of nocturnal air rendering their breaths visible, specters upon the air. Her proximity a tether more powerful than apparitions haunting fluid moments, where boundaries fused realities, where unspoken agreements sculpted. Inside lay not just secrets deceptively treasured, but multitudes of past phases captured eloquently, in reflection, trapped between past purpose and possibilities. A flash of lightning verified Isabella's veracities as Tony's palm reached the vault's dial, revealing ineffable truths embalmed by memory, a silent benediction, invoked by unbridled faith in familial salvation. As the lock surrendered, under the emerald gaze of an antique desk lamp, the dusty scrolls bore witness. Here, amidst hallowed inquiry, stories resurfaced, inspired by ancient dictates beyond mere circumstance, propounded through generations. "It's everything, isn't it?" Isabella whispered, the magnitude of inherited legacy enveloping them within unquantified verbosity. Beneath the lamp's glow, a ledger stood prominent, the tomes recording history, absolute mixed with questionable indiscretions, inked upon successors unwilling to betray its heritage. Yet decisions impelled by unaccounted sin traversed narrowly prescribed soliloquy haunting Tony's conflicted gaze. Glimpses of unfinished portraits drifted amid sleepy lamplight, clamoring across time's fabric. "And still we persist," Tony affirmed, each word resonating with conviction, aspiration as desperate as it was assured. Beyond declarations, beyond repositories of crime's culmination, a singular truth burned in the crucible of revealed reckoning, bound to face calibrating shadows in their figurative parallels to repaint dawning drum beats. The howling, harmonized fates cast amid these figures bespoke dawn heralded over tides shifting narratives anew. The moment crescendoed, pregnant in the room's temporized silence, an ode to legacies repositioned amidst enduring clash. Outside, rain's gentle rhythm now mirrored changed tempos, those forming the chorus to reclaim destiny within reclaiming breaths of borrowed time. Yet, within gathering clarity loomed a question unresolved, a vertex collapsing upon the brink of understanding. "What binds us now?" Isabella posited, a whisper amid dust unsettled, settled fleeting rubrics born dematerialized into light-born destinies intertwined. The sharp crack of a gunshot shattered the silence, a prelude to chaos. In the labyrinth of New Santino City, Tony Luciano was a shadow among men, often overlooked, underestimated. Tonight, his obscurity became his protection. He watched from the shadows, his fingertips brushing against the reassuring heft of his revolver, concealed beneath his overcoat. In these moments, he was a maestro of darkness, each footstep, each heartbeat a metronome of impending action. Recollections played through his mind, the weight of expectation draped over his shoulders, pressing like the humid city air thick with memories and ambition. As a boy, he'd traced these wars with naive mischief. Now they bore witness to his calculated rebellion against betrayal. This city, with its limestone facades and velvet secrets, thrummed with the pulse of hidden lives. The scent of gunmetal lingered ironclad, promises ready to fracture in the night. It was here Tony crafted his destiny, where his identity was both a blade and shield on these rain-slicked streets. "Tony!" Isabella's voice cut like a thread through the fabric of shadows. Her silhouette emerged at the far end of the dock, wavering in the distance like a mirage. Curved and bold, despite the night's oppressive humidity, she strode toward him with the confidence forged through blood ties and shared ambition. "I found it," she whispered, voice tinged with urgency and relief. She clutched a parcel of seemingly innocuous object capable of altering the dynasty's fate, its hidden weight shifting their world. A jangle of doubt threaded through Tony's resolve. "Is it?" His voice faltered, uncharacteristic hesitation tainting his authority, remnants of trust contorted by betrayal. The parcel, wrapped in oilcloth, held more than mere promise. As Isabella handed it to him, the air around them seemed to tighten, infused with the electrifying undercurrent of conspiracy and unforeseen salvation. "What we need to prove our claim, to silence those who threaten our name," Isabella assured, each word a balm against encroaching chaos. Tony knew they balanced precariously on the precipice of a storm, its fury mirrored in the fervent wind sweeping through the alleys, eclipsing comfort, filling voids left by fracturing allegiances. The night was thick with peril and promise. An alarm shrieked in the distance, a signal from the Capillo clan. They'd been discovered, their raid anticipated, thwarted by unknown informants. Tony motioned for Isabella to retreat, calculated reserve inflecting his every movement. "Back to the safe house," he commanded softly. Turmoil churned beneath his calm facade, edges sharpened by the urgency of flight, a performance not for freedom, but survival. In their wake, voices rose. Shadows shifted, foes and allies danced their clandestine ballet under the influence of clandestine ambitions. Each step resounded a tempo, synchronizing the cacophony of desperate assertions and whispered truths. In the heart of uncertainty, Tony raced towards home, the city bending around him like a compass attuned only to secrecy's call. Isabella led, a spectral guide through mazy streets dimly lit by infrequent street lamps, casting elongated phantoms that reached for the heavens. In the dark recesses of the Luciano estate, the world shifted, a tale spun anew from fabrications and tenacity interwoven. "Trust none, Tony," Maria, the aging yet ever watchful housemaid, warned. Her eyes were seasoned, hardened by decades of surviving the whims of power plays. "You know what hangs in the balance." Her voice was a sentinel's cry, the certainty of fortunes entwined and contested. "Then it's time," Tony replied with quiet determination. His resolve crystallized under the scrutiny of ancestral portraits, the departed Lucianos whose eyes observed, both stern and indifferent. The parcelance surrendered and then rediscovered was gift and weapon, memory and prophecy entwined. Unwrapped upon Tony's desk, it exhaled secrets trapped within its folds, emanating a resonance distinct with authority. Here was the unequivocal truth interred within a document rendering fragile loyalties obsolete. Now tangible, its power surged through the room, igniting the air with potent anticipation. But as certainty stabilized the clamor within, a trifecta of knocks resonated at the door, slicing through the silence, a harbinger, heralding the arrival of decisions. Isabella's hand hovered over the doorknob, poised between safety and all that lay beyond. In that fleeting eternal moment, the line between past and future blurred beyond recovery. Tony prepared for what they must face, his voice steady, a bridge over turbulent waters. "Our game," he paused, feeling the weight of choice settle its burdens, "begins in earnest." The door creaked open slowly, revealing a world pregnant with rebirth or ruination, a vivid, haunting tableau of unbroken possibilities. And there, framed by the soft insinuation of dawn threading through curtains, rested the shadow of a new arrival, their intentions undisclosed, destiny interwoven with the Luciano fate. Isabella whispered, conscious of the delicate equilibrium returned for now. Who could it be? For in uncertainty thrives the heart of the story. In the distance, as dawn emerges hesitant, resolving the night's enigmas, something's left to consider. The entrance lay poised, a question unanswered against the contours of a gathering day. The blade's edge gleamed under the somber pallor of dawn, promising only absolution or doom. Tony Luciano stood in his father's study, the heavy curtains gently swaying in the morning breeze, filtering the burgeoning sunlight like longing whispers of hopes. The room was thick with the scent of leather and old money, the ghost of past deals lingering like cigarette smoke in the air. Tony, often shielded by the veneer of nonchalance, was a man shaped by the shadows of family legacies. The weariness settled deep into his bones this morning, a result of innumerable nights spent wrestling with fate's inexorable grip. From the towering bookshelves to the silent grandfather clock, every inch of the room spoke of a legacy long-standing, its foundations unyielding to the tumult of internal discord. "This is it, isn't it?" Isabella's voice pierced the solemnity, her words a soft echo resonating against the stillness. She appeared from the corner, a calculated figure framed by the room's tenebrosity, as if she belonged with those historical tomes, every move a chapter yet to be unraveled. The Luciano name had been steered by men, but it was the women who welded the subtle strings of power behind closed doors, their voices ripples in a patriarchal tide. As she rolled a cigarette between dexterous fingers, Tony felt the familiar pang of reliance mixed with the ire of untethered responsibility. "Everything leads here," he confirmed, his gaze met by Isabella's steely eyes. The air carried a mix of cologne and impending rain, intangible yet all-encompassing. Tony knew the weight of this day, a testament to the dichotomy of betrayal and allegiance, a masterpiece of time and intention, culminated at this intersection. "Nico's found a lead," Isabella stated, offering him a cigarette with a steadiness that belied the swirl of desperation underlining their family's core. "He always does," Tony muttered as he accepted it, thoughtful fingers tracing the overlooked details in the familiar opulence surrounding them. The flame flickered between them, a spark fighting to hold against the turbulence of unresolved exploits. Beyond the windows lay a city waiting to unfurl its secrets, New Santino sprawling, alive, dangerous, its cobblestone veins pulsing with life amid whispered promises and threats. Nico's arrival was silent as always, his presence merely a shift in the sonic landscape, the whisper of leather shoes on hardwood, the quiet strength of an ally ready to face the storm. "What have you found?" Tony's request hung, filled with a certain fortitude. "There is movement. Capillo's family is mobilizing near the eastern precincts." Nico's voice was a careful caress of caution, the words precise instruments unveiling a strategical landscape dense with possibilities. Tony nodded, eyes narrowed, his mind flooded with the rhythmic pressure of decision-making. He could almost hear the sound of the black car waiting outside, ready to pierce through the miasma of doubt blanketing their future. "I suspect they are waiting for a sign," Isabella suggested, her words slicing through the fabric of tension with the finesse of a practiced mediator. "The kind that ensures blood won't flow," Tony added, underlining the gravity of what lay ahead. Every choice, every whisper, every moment was pregnant with the consequences of their ancestors' decisions. In the quiet hum of preparation that followed, silence reigned, yet teemed with anticipation, a prelude to the culmination hanging just beyond this fog. Tony's hand drew once more to the pocket where a silver ring rested, its weight familiar like a millstone girded with familial expectations. He knew what it meant more than jewelry or status. It bespoke an unbroken chain of silent vows and promises invoked through action. The time for confrontation dictated their intention. "We show them," Tony concluded, his voice resonating within the enclosed space like a litany. Strength fueled his tone, a silent promise embedded. They moved toward destiny under the half-light of dawn in the cloud-wreathed sky. New Santino unfolded beneath the emerging day, its narrow avenues threading a spindle of narratives as paths converged upon the decisive clash. Rain threatened, clouds above carrying withheld torrents of judgment, much as the underworld mauled its perplexing designs. In transit, the car hummed an overture of inevitabilities encroaching upon pivotal existence. Tony felt the city pass under him, not merely passage, but a fusion of desire against limitations, borne by shadows across generations. The ring flickered under intermittent slashes of sunlight, each turn robustly signaling paths undetermined but resolute. They arrived as fluidly as a painting come to life, each figure an essential piece of the scene. The eastern dock, weather-beaten, awaited them, destiny and contingency wrapped within its embrace. Tony disembarked first, silent save for the brush of cloth and the gentle rattling of years unspooled into the now. The docks teemed with life, a cacophony of intrigue, the sea's brine mingling with washed cobblestones. And there they were, Capillo's figures poised like antediluvian sentinels, guardians of a cause whispered in Era's name. A shadow detached itself from the group, the unmistakable figure of Simone Capillo. Simone's presence contrasted bravado with conviction, each step forward imbuing the gathering clouds with tension built long past wintered gazes. "Luciano," Simone greeted, voice laden with the collected friction of unspoken torrents, a tone habitually measured, now tempered by the storm. "Capillo," Tony returned, each acknowledgement a reckoning poised to tip fate's scale. Their exchange was marked by the dance of old confidences, both ancestral and modernized under modern industry's veil of whispers, spun upon alleys steeped in memory. The world turned, arms reached for calculated gambles. But this time, Tony held the resolution furnished by the artifice of secrets unveiled. Within moments grasped after ages endured, the landscape shifted, Isabella's form discernible, her presence the narrative's cornerstone, unveiling reality uncharted by observation. Every instinct screamed opposition, yet Tony knew. Knowing bound his heart in a rivulet of strength as dialogue soundlessly conveyed resolve. "What shall it be?" Tony asked, the inquiry softly vacillating between enemy and friend, a sword over fogged trenches. Simone's eyes locked over decisions kindled by a mutual understanding, only kin might possess through generations extended. A nod, a gasp of air shared, and conviction resonated like a breath against the feather-light edge of destiny's scythe. There, poised in the crucible of action, was reconciliation and commencement intermixed. The moment lengthened, indecision biting from both blades alike, and then came Isabella, swift movement, intended as a dove beyond battlefields crossing into harmony or destruction. In the slipstream of her motion, the truth so long obscured pierced through misconception like daylight upon a stormy sea. Eyes now wide, Simone saw the truth Tony had hidden. The document extended with weighted authority in echo of their shared inheritance. Reconciliation's truth blazed, altering temporize like flame unto darkness. This, the exoneration amid burdened consanguinity's tempest. Isabella's eyes shone, cast onto the vastness a sea of nascent peace, uncloaked beneath tumult, once scorching testament. Each figure holds power, antagonist merging to protagonist, beneath uncertainties cached, as destiny bridged unto tomorrow. Simone inclined his head as the sun sheared clouds apart, symbol of mutuality. Metamorphosis embodied in donor-complicated assertions. In the fading mist stood the shared promise of understanding, emanating from newly bounded legacy, as Tony spoke here, rhythmic cadence plotting out benevolence. "For those gone and those we hold," he voiced, a soft benediction, acknowledging the past grip yielded under intellect wisely honed. The ground sought toward resolution, and juxtaposed ripples, shaped by shadows of choices, hung reverently before dawn's benevolent advance. But even as the promises reverberated quietly, the horizon marked by change fused to life, envisioned in indelible tomorrows. Beneath undervalued intermissions stood condensed paths there determined, Tony's words resonant in reality veiled behind an ambiguous repose. Sometimes unforeseen ventures animate, and then, and as the sun crested anew, promising absolution beyond disparate wear time, or salvage unsure, the testament was to grasp coincidence's pace. The binding fates acknowledged, none less than shared declaration, as a figure emerged from the surrounding twilight, a shadow both enigmatic and catalyzing. Poised upon potential proverbial precipices amid evening's dichotomy, sang out, "What is unseen can be felled no longer." The blade descended with the finality of a gavel, embedding 4 inches deep into the oak table and quivering there, asserting dominance. "It's too late. Nothing can change the past," Tony whispered, his voice barely a thread as he locked eyes with Simone Capillo. Tony had always been the shadow a man bred in the specter of ambition, where his capabilities lay veiled behind a veil of reticence. While others fought on grand stages, he wielded influence from the darkness. The scar above his eyebrow, a remnant of past tussles, was now more a sigil of survival than an impediment. His attire, a simple charcoal suit, belied the tumultuous storm that raged beneath a mind swirling with newfound revelations and cunning stratagems. As the room settled into a silence thick with anticipation, Tony's calculated coolness veined through the encroaching chaos. Behind him, the leather-bound books of his father's study bore silent witness to generational legacies. It was here that honor once hung delicately upon decisions and loyalty tested the weight of oaths given and severed. Maria, a figure ever constant amidst the turmoil, appeared in the doorway, her face etched with an unyielding resolve that only decades of exposure to underworld secrets could bestow. "There's still time to rewrite this page, Tony. The city is stirring, something's unset," she whispered, each word laced with a plea for hope against the inevitable. Nico shifted uneasily beside him, the slick of uncertainty marking his palms. His allegiance to Tony was unquestionable, though Nico knew only too well the breadth of what was at stake. Family could unite or divide, and tonight that delicate boundary lay in a balance between might and conviction. Outside, the city writhed with life, its cobblestone streets a tapestry of whispered alliances and shadows ever stretching. The harbor lights angled through the dusk, painting the dark waves in sporadic bursts of gold and aquamarina, mesmerizing dance that belied the peril looming over the Lucianos. Simone was a worthy opponent, a figure not easily vanquished, possessing a symbiotic grasp on tradition nearly as resolute as Tony's. Yet here they were, meeting not as adversaries but as men bound by history and blood. "You claim the past cannot change," Simone began, his voice silky, a serpent's caress. "But here we stand, Tony, on the precipice of altering everything." His gesture embraced the room a shrine to power shifting, authority on the cusp of rebirth. Tony's gaze flickered to the dagger, still upright on the table, a symbol of resolution and intent. "Neither of us can afford missteps," Tony countered, his words sharp as a honed edge. "But you see," Simone intoned softly, stepping into the fraught space between them, "it's what we uncover that alters fate and forges futures untold." In that moment, the room's gathered intensity crescendoed a simmering storm's eye. From within his jacket, Tony drew forth the parchment uncovered days before, a document sealed in old-world wax bearing truths that had once threatened to tear them apart. It was the Luciano ledger, and within its lines lay both indictment and exoneration. "Here," Tony declared, heart spiked with conviction, not of doom, but renewal. An offering between brothers shaped by familial tides, the Leggera potent missive capable of recalibrating destinies. Simone paused, eyes roaming the manuscript with intertwined intrigue and understanding. This, the aperture of rivalries meshed in scripts scribed by blood, paddled its prose into the lineage of vengeance dulled by antipodal acknowledgement, a wager in favor of sisterhood's echo, cradled by mistrust, a peace offering. "We reclaim this, together," Isabella interceded, voice resonant above the reverberating past. Assurance bloomed in the wake of recognition, a feeling neither ephemeral nor fragile, but a robust foundation woven to span unforeseen gulfs. The clash of lightning illuminated their silent concordant, arched gateway beyond adversities outlining unyielding paths long traversed obscurely beneath veiled intention. In the measured passage of moments, Tony saw the fruition of prolonged discourse, reflected in Simone's acceptance, a nod, a sigh steeped in the dawn's incandescence. Nico and Maria, reluctant witnesses to sanguine origins cemented anew, leaned toward the spectacle of resolution played against the time-worn theater, a process cementing history in amber-turned gold. "Then let's begin again," Simone whispered, gazing into a dawn crimson-bathed with newfound optimism. As the sun heralded transit into light, illuminating verges between feud and brotherhood, Tony fetched a sparse semblance of ring, silver and stark. Each twist and gleam symbolized instigations reconciled amidst the conflated architecture, lending this fabled family its energy. Even as unity was forged under long-veiled aspirations, there lingered the emblem of caution, the dagger, solemn among resolved transitions enduring within their hearts. Their stories revisited across time's tapestry, spun anew. The chilling undercurrent swept the landscape once pierced by anguish, now arrived at confluence. A shared harmony echoed on waves across New Santino Peace, tempered by the ages, garnered through battles waged not simply in resolve, but rendered within truth's unwavering reflection. In a parting glance imbued with ancestral echoes, they harbored decisions considered, gestured upon cobblestone conceived as witness yet reborn amid Santiago's skyline. As they turned from the room, each step bestowed wisdom earned, cast like stones upon a rippling pond, expansive beyond belief. Then came the voice, unbidden but anticipated. But what of the future's shadow? A cry continued beyond conclusion. Outside the wind shifted, clouds shifted, skies opened, and the world of futures whispered vividly across the air in engraving.